All right, what is up, guys and gals? This is Brandoncoin, just tuning back in, and today we have a Radeon RX480. This is an 8GB blower reference design from XFX. And I wanted to change up how I'm looking at reviewing opinionated on graphics cards. So if you notice it's going to be a little bit different, drop a comment down below if you like this style. Just a little bit of background on the card before we get going. The Radeon 400 series, which this is, it's a 480, is the series of graphics cards made by AMD. These were the first ones to include the Polaris GPUs inside of them. And the RX prefix is used for cards that offer over 1.5 teraflops of performance. But like the previous generation, the first numeral in the number refers to the generation, for example 4 in this case, and the second number in the numeral refers to the tier of the card, so 8. So this is a 4th generation 8 series, so it's a 480, for example. So 470 would be a same generation slower card compared to 480. So 470 is under 480, 490, they never made it, but that would have been over a 480 for an example. So the Polaris 10 was initially planned to be a mid-range chip to be featured in the 480 with a TDP of around 110 to 135 watts compared to its predecessor, the R9 380's 190 watt TDP. So it's supposed to be a lot more power and energy efficient card, but they actually ran into a problem, and a couple of reviewers, I believe Tom's Hardware was one of the first ones, found out that this violates the PCI Express slot's power limit. You're only supposed to pull up to 75 watts from the PCI Express slot. Some cards do peak over that, very minusculely amount, but the RX480 actually will pull a steady 80 up to 90 watts depending on the load, straight from the PCI Express slot. And when I'm talking about PCI Express slot, I'm talking about this. So this is the slot that actually goes into the motherboard. And why that's concerning is if you're running this card and running it hard for a long period of time, it can actually burn out the PCI Express slot on your motherboard. Well, luckily a lot of these cards got used for mining. You know, I'm a miner, a lot of people out there are miners. So then in that case, they would be using PCI Express risers. So if it burned out a riser, it's definitely not nearly as detrimental as if it burned out a slot on your motherboard. Some motherboards only having one PCI Express slot. So if it burned that out, your motherboard's kaput. You know, you can't run any graphics off of it, so you'd have to get in a whole nother motherboard. With that issue, they actually released another lineup of cards that replace these, and they're the 580s. We'll be doing a video on those coming up here soon, but today we're specifically looking at the 480, and it still does have some benefits, and even in modern computing like we have today, right now. So I'm going to go ahead and install this card into the system, and we'll get to looking at its performance with mining and a little bit of light gaming too. This is definitely a 1080p card. This is not no 4K graphics card. It was meant to be competitive in the modern games of its era. So you're looking at like a 2016, 2017, 1080p, 60 frames is what they were really aiming for. They were not looking to be the best end-all graphics card at the time. So just to note, this card only does have one single 6-pin on top. Some other models, especially if they're overclock models or non-reference designs, will have an 8-pin. Some even have an 8 plus a 6-pin. So this one is like basically should be 100% bone stock clocks and everything. Give us a good idea of what this card does right from the factory. So let's pop it in. Alright guys, so I went ahead and it's got a one-click BIOS mod on it, and then I popped it into my RX570 rig. So if you'll look at GPU number 2, so it's the third one down, GPU 2, get it because 0 is 1. It's doing 29.27. That is actually the RX480 8GB card. You'll notice the 570s are doing 28.6 and to 28.8. But yeah, that GPU 2 is doing, actually it's at 29.2 right now. So it's doing, the 480 is just doing a little bit better than the 570s. I could probably squeak some more out of this if I was a little bit more aggressive on my overclocks. The guy I bought it from said he was getting around 31 mega hash. I'm not as aggressive on my overclocks. I'm running 1120 core and 2010 memory, but I just do a blanket setting across all my cards, and they all put up with it. Core undervolt at 900, and I don't have aggressive undervolt on. I'm thinking about potentially running that. Power stage 6, target temperature 70, minimum fan speed 70. So that is my settings with the one-click BIOS mod to get around 29 megahash, 29.19 right now, but almost 30 megahash, solid setup right there. And actually, let's see what 29 megahash equals in dollars, or well, in crypto right now. Let me jump over to the mining calculator real quick. All right, so I went over to what to mine. This is an awesome utility for kind of figuring out what a card's going to make potentially. Ethereum is one of the #1 coins to mine profitability wise for an RX480 right now, other than Monero, but we'll just for ease of use, that's what I'm mining. 29.2 and 120 watts on the power. Cost is 0.1 or 10 cents per kilowatt hour. My cost is 0.9. It's 9 cents per kilowatt hour. We'll calculate that out, and with Ethereum only being, I think Ethereum, what's it at right now? It's really low. I don't know. We'll figure that out in a second. But we're looking at 51 cents a day. It's going to cost us 26 cents in electricity, so we're profiting 26 cents a day. We're profiting a little over 1/4 a day to run this card. Not much at all, but it is. If you could hold on to it and let them stack up, your Ethereum could potentially be worth a lot more. Because right now, there it is. Ethereum is only worth $221. So that's a little look at the mining end of things. These cards, I like to keep them below 70 degrees Celsius. I like them in the 60 range. If I can keep them in the 50s, that's awesome. But since this is a blower model, these always run a little bit warmer. But let's jump over and check out some of the gaming performance. And I figured I'd load up Fortnite because it seems like that's like the hot new game. Whatever, you know, Fortnite it is. So. Alright, so I went ahead and set everything full settings on Fortnite. That's epic everything. Doing 1080p, 1920 by 1080. And I just went ahead and loaded in, and here's a little snip of me playing. If you look up in the top left corner, it doesn't really have any problems keeping 60 frames. So it's a decent mid-range card. These cards originally launched and they were at $239 was the MSRP. But you can easily find these things in a low $100 to $150 range, and it's a solid buy, especially if you're on a budget and you're playing just some lighter to mid-duty games. I probably wouldn't throw this on anything to do with 4K. I would definitely keep it in the 1080 range. That's just what it was designed for. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this kind of stuff and this kind of video. It was definitely different for me. And I will be potentially doing this on all my upcoming graphics cards, and just doing a little bit of a delve into the history and checking them out. So thank you guys for watching. This is Brandon on Brandoncoin, and I will see you on the next one. Adios.